Okay, guys, I cut you guys back on because I was experiencing some technical difficulties with my SD card. But anyway, I sprayed the carb. Hopefully, I didn't lose any footage. I sprayed the carb with carb cleaner, and we're going to be continuing to spray the carb just to get it cleaned up inside and out. And inside the float bowl, you see it's black and grimy. So we'll get that cleaned out. And we'll remove the jet here with the 3/8 ratcheting tool here. And we'll pull that off. Ooh, it's very black and dirty. Yes, sir. Had to be cleaned out. So that's good. I pulled it off and checked that out. So make sure you guys check your carbs. Pull them off if they've been sitting for a while. And get them cleaned up. I'm trying to find the other screwdriver. There it is. So I'll hold this where the jet is and make sure it's, whoa, and we'll pull off the jet, make sure it's good. Okay, so doesn't want to come off the easy way, we'll try the hard way. And there it is. If you're gonna do it with the vice grips, just make sure you don't strip it out, because it'll, yep, that jet was too lean for the carb. But we'll try this 120 jet out and see how it does. Okay, so we changed the jet out, and we'll be installing it back in the carburetor. Okay, that's good. Let's clean out this float bowl, make sure it's good. No black stuff floating around in there. Hopefully you guys can see. We're gonna get this 212 running, and if I get it running, we'll take a ride. And that's about it. All right, that's good. The float bowl is clean. Making sure everything is clean inside the carb and outside the carb. Get everything cleaned up. We'll put the jet back in. Tighten her up. And now we have cleaned the float bowl and the carb inside. making sure no nothing's going inside the carb or the float bowl. Just want to make sure no dust or anything is in there. So now we will put it back on. Put the float bowl back on. Making sure you put the float bowl in the right place. Oh, I see something right here. See? You got to make sure all these are put in the right place. Just because I moved it a small bit. Here you go. What holds the float in place was coming loose. So make sure that's in place before you put the float bowl on. And now it should just go right on. Oop, the other way. There's only one way to put the float bowl back on. And it's just like that. So now we will install the 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And get her tightened up. One, 2, 3, and 4. And after I put the carb on the bike, I'm going to check the oil. Make sure it's clean. If not, I'll change the oil out. And then we're going to get this thing running as soon as possible. So that's how you install the jet, the 120 jet on your carb. Mikuni clone, VM22. ATV and all motor carb. I'll cut you guys back on when I'm going to install it on the bike. Okay guys, welcome back. Cut you guys back on now. It's time to put the carburetor back on. And I'm going to leave the slide as is in the middle with the C-clamp. I'm going to put on the carb first. Let's do that right now. One second, let me grab my tool and my rag. Okay. Okay, so you have 2 screws. First, you gotta put the spacer on that comes with the carb. The spacer with the O-ring on here. The other side doesn't have an O-ring, but this side of the carb does have an O-ring. So make sure the side with the O-ring on this spacer goes in between the carb and the intake manifold. So make sure you have the spacer The O-rings have to be facing towards the engine, so make sure you have all the O-rings facing that way. So right now we will put in, oh, I will install the screw this way because it's a pain to install this carb on the motor, because the screws have to be put on a certain way, but you can't get to the bolt on this side with a wrench, so you'll have to tighten it up slowly and then use the Allen wrench to tighten up the bolt. But anyway, this is in real time, so I appreciate everybody for watching and subscribing to the channel. We're going to grow, that's for sure. Right now, I will put the hex Allen key on there, and then with the ratcheting tool we will tighten up this nut on this side if we can reach the bolt. Okay, so it's almost tight on that side, and let's do the same on this side. Tighten them. Make sure the carb is sitting in the middle of the intake, because you can adjust this carb. The intake has a slot where you can move the carb right or left, depends on how your engine is sitting. So you can adjust this carb in a lot of ways. A lot of people put this engine different ways, and the intake is made to adjust for that reason. Yep, I'm just gonna get a needle nose plier like this, and because you can't get it in there with the wrench, and then use the Allen key to adjust. So now I want to take in, before I tighten up the screws all the way to hold the carburetor in place, I just want to move it to where the carb is in the middle and it's going the same as the intake. And I can see right now that the intake is not fully locked in place because I see space in between the spacer and the carb. You want to take and make sure you tighten that up. Boom. Make sure it's very, very tight and not gonna get loose on you when you vibrate, when the engine's vibrating. So now that the engine is nice and, the carb is nice and clean, there you go. Now tighten up the hex and that's it. So now we will put back the, the fuel line back on, and then put the clamp that holds the fuel line back on. And we have successfully cleaned the carb out and changed the jet out. And hopefully with that we will get this bike running and take it out for a speed run or just a test. We'll see. Make sure the slide is in the right place. Okay, so now that the slide is in the right place, now we can turn the slide cover and don't tighten it too much. There you go. Just hand tighten this one and make sure the carb is sitting good. And we have replaced the jet and successfully cleaned the carb and put it back on the bike. So now, when I get everything ready to start the bike, I will cut you guys back on.